The business of living can be complicated by a particularly exhausting and deeply human habit, our tendency to question our judgments with the passage of time. What had originally seemed like a clear-cut and soundly based decision can, after just a few weeks or months, come under a fresh and relentless scrutiny, often initiated by our own minds in the quiet hours of the night. This internal cross-examination can inspire intense doubt, waves of regret, a lingering sense of shame, and profound insomnia. At its most powerful, it can lead to hurried, almost panicked attempts to reverse a choice we once stood firmly behind, a choice we once believed was essential for our own well-being. Let's take a familiar and potent example. A few months ago, it seemed not only right but absolutely necessary to end our relationship. The decision wasn't made on a whim. It was the culmination of weeks, maybe months, of careful observation and painful experience. We had our partner's faults clearly in view, not as abstract flaws, but as daily realities. We remember the feeling of being unheard during important conversations, the subtle but constant criticism, the future plans that were always about them, and the gnawing loneliness we felt even when they were in the same room. We were certain that these patterns made any sensible, shared plans for the future completely untenable. We made the hard choice for our own sanity. But now a season has passed. We're no longer so sure. The sharp clarity of that decision has softened, its edges blurred by time and loneliness. We've been on a few dates, and they didn't go too well. They were awkward, stilted affairs that only highlighted the comfortable shorthand we'd lost. We've been by ourselves a lot, and the silence in the apartment has grown louder. As we've been doing the mundane chores of solitary life, doing the laundry, walking through the park, cooking for 1 hour, minds have started to play tricks on us. They've started to curate a highlight reel of the past. We don't remember the arguments, but we've started to remember how funny and clever, how sweet and tender our ex could be. That one perfect afternoon in the sun overshadows 100 tense evenings. And so, we find ourselves wondering whether we should, despite our original, sensible recommendation that neither of us should be in touch for a while, perhaps send them a falsely innocent text tonight. Something casual like, "Hey, just saw something that made me think of you," hoping it opens a door we once bolted shut for a very good reason. This pattern, this revisionist history of the heart, repeats itself in all areas of life. Consider last summer. We knew, with absolute certainty, that we didn't have a particularly good time at that humid, crowded beachside resort. We remember the overpriced, mediocre food, the noisy neighbors, and the feeling of being disappointed. We vowed to stick to a cooler, more peaceful climate next time. But since then, the weather has turned very cold. The sky has been a persistent, unforgiving gray, and the wind bites at our skin. Just recently, scrolling through pictures on our phone, we stumble upon a photo from that trip. The sun looks golden, the water seems inviting, and we've completely forgotten the frustrations. Suddenly, we're finding ourselves curious, even excited, about the possibility of returning south next year. Or we told ourselves, with a sigh of relief, that we were fully and finally done with a particular career path. We left because of the burnout, the toxic office politics, the feeling that our soul was slowly eroding with every spreadsheet. It was a courageous leap, but we've been reflecting on matters since, and our new path has its own struggles. Then, we happened to bump into an old colleague last week. They painted a rosy picture, mentioning that the difficult manager had left and a new, exciting project was starting. They conveniently forgot to mention the systemic issues that remain. And now, we are sitting at home, seriously wondering whether we shouldn't maybe make another attempt, questioning the very freedom we fought so hard to win. Even a simple social decision can fall prey to this phenomenon. A friend from university has suggested a meal. Our immediate memory of them, when we last saw them a decade ago, was of someone profoundly self-centered and dull. We remember an entire dinner where they never once asked us a question about our life. Yet, they sounded so bright and sparky in their recent text message. The loneliness of a quiet Tuesday evening begins to work on us, and we think, perhaps they've changed. Perhaps I was the one being judgmental. And so, we've agreed to meet them for lunch near the station next week, setting ourselves up to relearn a lesson we had already learned. In such instances, when the siren song of the past calls to us, it can be profoundly useful to keep a broad, guiding principle in mind. The further away we stand from the moment when we took a decision, the more our judgment is likely to be clouded and corrupted by our present circumstances. This isn't a personal failing. It is a fundamental feature of our minds that, in most areas, serves us extremely well. It is our capacity to forget pain. Think of the mind as a self-healing organism. When we suffer a wound, the body forms scar tissue. The scar remains as a record, but the raw, searing pain of the initial injury fades. Our psychological self does the same. This very faculty, this pain amnesia, is what allows us to effectively mourn the death of a pet or a loved one and eventually remember them with fondness instead of anguish. It's what helps us get over a bankruptcy, endure a drop in income, or recover from physical injury. It is essential for resilience. But this gift of forgetting has a dangerous side effect. It also means that we're likely to revise our views of an ex we worked so sensibly and bravely to eject from our lives. It's why we will know, within 5 minutes of re-meeting that acquaintance for lunch, that they are, in fact, just as maddeningly self-absorbed as they ever were. The scar tissue over the memory had hidden the reality of the wound. We pick apart and dissolve our own hard-won judgments because we cannot keep a clear eye on the powerful, invisible incentives we come under to do so. We don't notice how our present emotions are rewriting our past. We abdicate our reason to doubt under the intolerable and irrepressible degrees of loneliness, sadness, isolation, and confusion. Of course, we're going to start to question our views of our ex's strengths and weaknesses after 7 consecutive weekends spent substantially on our own, feeling the sting of humiliation on dating apps, where conversations fizzle out and connection feels impossible. Of course, we won't remember our friend's dispiriting character when we would so love, more than anything, to have a flourishing social life and an invitation for the weekend. So when we wake up in the middle of the night, or find ourselves staring out the window on a Sunday afternoon and wonder if we've been unfair or hasty or made a terrible mistake, that is the moment for the sternest, most reasonable part of us to gently but firmly grab the controls. This inner wisdom should prompt us to ask a critical question. Is this revision to my views likely to be accurate, based on new, solid information? Or is it simply convenient, a comforting story I'm telling myself to escape the discomfort of my present situation? Despite all the emotional pressures we're under to believe otherwise, we should place our faith in the wisdom of a well-worn dictum. Trust what you knew then, not what you feel now. Your past self was the on-the-ground correspondent, reporting live from a scene. They had all the data points. They felt the full, unfiltered weight of the situation. They were the one standing in the downpour of the toxic relationship, not the one looking at a sunny photograph of it from the warm, dry comfort of the future. Trust that person. They were looking out for you. This isn't to say that people can't change or that we should build rigid walls around our past choices, never allowing for growth or reconciliation. Growth is always possible, but it is a call to honor the clarity of your past self, to treat their decisions with respect. Trusting that version of yourself is a profound act of self-compassion. It's about protecting your future from the temporary loneliness and emotional whims of your present. By holding firm to the wisdom you earned through direct experience, you refuse to repeat painful cycles. You clear the path for new experiences, new people, and new decisions that are truly aligned with the future you deserve, a future that is genuinely new, rather than a disappointing retreat into a past you wisely and courageously chose to leave behind. If this message about navigating the complexities of life and learning to trust yourself resonates with you, we invite you to continue this journey of reflection with us. Please consider subscribing to our channel for more insights on emotional intelligence and the art of living a more conscious and fulfilling life. Thank you for watching.